All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg, and a little bit of a late start. May have seen me for just a moment on before, maybe not. It was only, I think, on Facebook, not YouTube. I had to bring Dolly, our new family member, our new addition, up to sit with me during the podcast because she was barking, and I could hear her, and I thought you might hear her too, and I also felt bad. I don't want her to be barking the whole time. She likes to be with me. Of course, she put up a huge fight. It was really hard for me to get her to come upstairs with me to sit in the live stream room, which was frustrating as all get out because she was barking like crazy. And I thought she'd want to be with me. And I think she did or does because she's now quiet. She's just gnawing on her bone. But she put up quite a fight when I tried to bring her upstairs. Finally got her. Here she is. 240-242-5646 if you want to join me. This is a free-for-all day, and I called it the Thursday free-for-all because obviously it's not Friday. Usually we do these on Friday, but the reason we're making a special exception is because I will be off tomorrow and I will be off Monday because I'll be visiting my old home state, California. That was not my first home state. My first home state, New York, then Maryland, and now, of course, California. And now, of course, Maryland. But in between, there was time when I was in California, which I really, really liked. There were a lot of things I love, a lot of things I love. Some things not so much about California. But I do want to talk to you. So we call it the free-for-all because that's especially a day. I mean, there are all days when you can join us, but this is especially a day I want to hear from you. And I have a question. I guess it is if you can help me with this, because I really struggle. There's so many people that are in my circle I think they really do believe Israel is not to blame, that Israel is not complicit in genocide. They really support Israel. And I don't think maybe it's just that, it could just be they're Jewish and they can't, or the people that I know who support Israel are mostly Jewish, not all, but mostly, or they're converted away from Israel even, or from Judaism even. But what's that about? I saw this headline, and actually it was posted on a Facebook friend's page, and you can see they underlined Hamas is to blame. This is Dateline October 19th, and it's just so patently, blatantly false. It's just so clearly untrue. And yet it got a lot of likes. And no, as far as I could tell, there weren't a lot of comments, but there were a lot of likes. I commented that it was Israel's 100% to blame. And I even pointed out, as I will in a second, that if you look at the image, or we'll get to the image, you can see the top of that image, but the headline or the caption for the image in that screenshot that I gave you below the headline, Gaza ceasefire is cracking, you see the folks there carrying the corpses, right? The people that Israel killed. And so the irony shouldn't be lost on anyone that Israel is to blame. Israel's the one that's killing these people. And yet there's this, I don't know, cult of Israel. Is that what it is? I want to know. Tell me, 240-242-5646. Why do you think people are so unwilling to blame Israel for its crimes? I find it just mind-boggling. It's so obvious. It couldn't be clearer. And this is not the only delusion that we labor under. So many of us reject the fact of human-caused global warming, the current climate holocaust, right? So there's a genocide in Gaza. You could call it another holocaust. That's fine with me. I do sometimes. And there's a climate holocaust. And it's a very legitimate use of the word holocaust because, after all, holocaust is a fire. And we're burning up our planet. And yet so many people deny it. They won't accept it. They reject every data point that shows it. They reject completely the science, even if they're not scientists. I guess there's some scientists who claim it's not true. Why? What is wrong with us? I often look into myself. I'm like, what do I believe that isn't true? What do I think that clearly the evidence doesn't support? And of course, it's really hard to do it to yourself because you never see yourself as deluded. If you thought you were deluded, you wouldn't be deluded, right? I mean, if I thought that Israel really was the innocent victim of Hamas, and that we should be all in for Israel, and I said I'm deluded into believing that the Palestinian people are the victims here, but I'm deluded into believing that, then I wouldn't be deluded, because I would be like, oh, wait, I'm wrong. That's not what I think. I wouldn't think that anymore. So it's really hard to do to yourself. I remember a friend of mine pointed out that, since my iteration as a pro-Palestine, anti-Israel host, they pointed out, well, you used to be super in the tank for Israel. And they reminded me of an incident I wish I didn't remember from, I don't know, when I was in college and I was, jawing with a Palestinian activist. And I was wrong. I was totally wrong about that. But, now I know it, but then I didn't know it. Why was I wrong then? I was raised to go to synagogue. I associated myself with Judaism. I don't know. I guess. I mean, I think as adults, I think those excuses wear really, really thin. I think you could make an argument that in 1981, 1982, Israel's crimes, A, weren't as bad as they are now. They hadn't committed as many crimes. And B, and they weren't quite as serious, and B, they weren't as well, documented. So maybe that's true. Here is from the Washington Post, a billionaire-owned Jeff Bezos newspaper, the Washington Post, and they're all in the tank for Israel. So the article, the headline says that Hamas is to blame, right, for the ceasefire cracking, which it's sort of still kind of holding together, kind of like Humpty Dumpty. The king's horses, meaning Trump's horses and men, are sort of keeping it kind of glued together, but the cracks are very, very clear. The fissures are very, very clear, and they're because of Israel. But the Post, desperate here to present the Hasbara, the Israeli Hasbara, to its readers. And why is that? Why would Bezos be so supportive of Israel? What's that about? I was trying to understand that as well. I don't believe he's Jewish. And I think there's several reasons. One, because, he knows Trump supports Israel. He knows this is the kind of caption. I really believe this is maybe the biggest factor, probably, possibly. He wants to stay in Trump's good graces, or at least not get into Trump's bad graces. Amazon does a tremendous amount of business with the federal government. Amazon, obviously, one of the largest companies in the world. It's one of the architects of the web. Apparently, most of its profits now come from Amazon Web Services. So obviously, the web is regulated by governments around the world, and Trump is the one who pulls those strings to a significant degree. So the current CEO, Andy Jassy, who came up through AWS, by the way, almost certainly wants to stay in good with Trump. And if Jassy calls up Bezos and says, hey, do an editorial, because this is from the Post editorial page board, do an editorial saying how, it's Hamas's fault to kind of, protect Trump. If when this all falls apart, it's you got to blame Hamas, not Netanyahu. So I'm sure that may be part of it. I mean, a large part of it, right? They just want to be, say what the power wants them to say. And another factor, we've heard this before, that the very rich, the richer you are, the less empathy you seem to have for other people. And we'll talk about another billionaire later on the program, John Katsimidis, I think is how Katsimidis. He's the owner of the Gristedes grocery chain in New York City, also a media mogul as well, like, of course, Bezos. And he uses his media outlet, obviously, to promote a right-wing agenda. By the way, you may hear the squeaking, so that would be Dolly squeaking her little toy. So this has been really quite a program here. Oh, I got a caller too. It's Ari. Hey, Ari, how you doing? You're going to help me out today because I got Dolly here, and I don't know if you hear the squeaking, but it's quite quite an interesting show today.
It is. It is. Can you hear me?
I do. I hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, please.
All right, Hal. I won't take very long. I think you've already, because I want to hear what you got to say about Mamdani. I'm interested in that one too. So I was just going to say a couple of brief points. I think you already touched on some very good ones. Why the American population in general is not getting it? It's not. What's going on? Is it just hasbara? It's propaganda being in our face all the time. So really, it's an interesting thing. If I was in school right now, I would probably do a special study just for that topic. It's very interesting. I think personally, two other points, and maybe I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise. There's lots of racism. The racism is still strong in many aspects, one of them being anti-Arab, anti-Islamic. You know, they're brown. They're to a lot of the white Americans in particular, but not only the white Americans, but I think it's also across the board with many, because of other factors that you've mentioned. They look at Arabs as very different than the Israelis. Israelis look white. They speak good English. Most of them speak American almost type of English. Many of them are American Jews that have emigrated, as we know, to Israel. So I think that's one thing. It's racism. The Hasbar, I think, is very strong. It's subtle but very powerful in the movies in Hollywood, in the articles we read in the media. And that's really the two things that came to my mind. I've been thinking about this myself. Another one I would probably add as a third point would be the Judeo-Christian affiliation. A lot of people don't get the fact that, the Islamic religion is not really so different or so anti-Western. There's an anti.
No, it's considered an Abrahamic religion. Like, I'm sorry, Ari, I'm cutting you off for just a sec. Yeah, no, it's they call it one of the three great monotheistic religions, right? Islam, Christianity, and Judaism.
Abrahamic, whatever, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would say if you put them all together, you add the Hasbara, it's like, I don't know, it's such an uphill battle that Americans don't see Palestinians and other Arab countries or Muslim countries, if you want to go, across the Middle East, Western Asia, whatever. It's just a very, very, it's an uphill battle that Americans doesn't seem to penetrate. Although you could say, well, why don't you just look at the social media videos that we're watching, just the actual Holocaust, the genocide? Doesn't that have an effect? Apparently, not enough. It's sad, It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's true, and I also get back to, and I think right now it's a minority of America that's in denial. Most Americans now, according to polls, are pro-Palestine rather than pro-Israel. But the people with the money, the people with the guns, are the ones who are pro-Israel to a very significant degree for a variety of reasons. So we really got a lot, and because of that, and because they make the decisions, we really don't live in a democracy.
Yeah, but I tell you, I'm sure you brought. I listened to your show quite a bit, as you know. You brought it up before. This whole thing with Gaza. The whole Palestine issue, now, of course, West Bank is a really big one. It's unbelievable what's going on in the West Bank. It's waking up the world. It's waking up, like you said, the polls are showing a lot of pro-Palestinian sentiment. It's slow. And what really gets me the most, really, sometimes is the United Nations. They have become even now they're talking about this and that, bringing the food into past the Rafah border. And where is the action? I mean, they're so inept. Overall, I know.
Well, I mean, they don't have an army that can take on Israel. That's the problem. If Israel says we're not letting you in, there's not much the UN can do, I don't think.
Right. And look what happened with other countries. I mean, Yugoslavia, they're no longer Yugoslavia now, but they brought, the blue helmets, or not blue helmets, I'm sorry, that's another one with Syria, but the blue United Nations.
I thought, is Syria's the white helmets, maybe? I'm not sure who the blue helmets are.
Right. I think they're all, I'm thinking of another one, but that's another story that Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate have covered, that particular group was very, very dubious, very questionable. But, why the UN is not playing a stronger role, and physically, you need something physical here. Talk is not doing it. It's frustrating, you know.
I'm so with you on that, Ari. I don't know what to do. Talk isn't doing it, but you know, we talk about getting out on the streets, but the No Kings rally was really, and I think Due Dissidents bros really nailed it. It was really a rally about nothing in the end, no demands. Also, I just want to give you your props on Blue Helmets. Blue Helmets is a common term for United Nations peacekeeping forces, which include military personnel, police, and civilians. I wasn't wrong about the White Helmets. The White Helmets were Syria Civil Defense, a humanitarian organization helping the communities there after all the attacks by, I guess, against Syria. I'm not really clear, but this was before Israel and the United Nations toppled the Assad regime.
But they were discovered by more than one. Some of these independent. I know you know Max Blumenthal, right?
Sure.
And they were shown to be it's an unbelievable organization that you know they made fake videos. I don't know if you've seen some of those, and very well orchestrated, very well organized group, probably well funded by anti-Assad. They called it the Assad regime. But these were elements that were working against anti-Assad, as I remember now, because I watched a lot of the I watched Max Blumenthal in different platforms, and they uncovered them that they're not really the nice guys that they pretend to be. Those helmets, or was it white helmets, whatever they call themselves, in Syria. So there's a lot of that going on, and the Middle East is becoming really complicated with the non-compliance, what's the word? Look at the Arab states and the Muslims. I mean, Turks are not Arabs. Iranians are not Arabs. They're Muslim, but there's definitely from the Turkish side, there's a lot more they could do, as you know, with the oil. They're still letting them. They're letting the oil supply. Imagine just closing that spigot. You know, that would have been one major thing to make Israel think twice about what they're doing. And they won't do it. I mean, they're NATO and all of that. It's a complex political thing over there, as you know. But it's amazing that the Arab states are not helping the Palestinians enough, and they're like cohorts.
Well, I think they're terrified too, to be perfectly honest, Ari. I mean, I think the leadership there, they're terrified. The New York Times neocon Thomas Friedman makes the point that the leaders now of the most powerful Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they're not even those aren't democracies in any form. They're basically tyrannies, and the dictators there have decided they're better off placating Trump and the United States and trying to do business with Israel rather than fighting for their fellow Arabs. When they've seen what happened to countries where the leadership, such as Assad in Syria, previously Egypt under Sisi, and others, when they actually stood with fellow Muslims, they were just ruthlessly targeted by the United States and Israel.
The last time something similar happened, somebody made a comparison with the Eisenhower days. I think it was early 50s that. Or maybe early 60s. Well, that wouldn't be Eisenhower, but Nasser. During Nasser days, the United States intervened, and they went against the wishes of, I think, France and England, and they said no, you're going past I forget the exact details, but they put their foot down, and it was against the Israeli wishes and the other allies of being France and England. Don't remember the exact details, but that was a long time ago, and Nasser is still looked upon by many, maybe not the perfect leader ever in the Arab world, but he was trying to unify, as you know, like a pan-Arab type of thing, whatever they called it. Yeah. So anyway, that's enough for me. I wonder if Mr. Trump is using that airplane gift that he got from Saudi Arabia, whoever it was.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the airplane, and by the way, thanks so much for the call, Ari. That may have actually, this was the point that Ed Fishman made on our program some time ago. That airplane may have actually worked out because Trump has these relationships with Arab leaders and he has business deals with them, and he feels pressure from them they're like, hey, we all work together here. Don't let Israel, stop Israel, stop Israel. So maybe he decided he had to kind of at least throw them a bone. That certainly was Ed Fishman's position and seems reasonable to me. Just want to talk briefly about the white helmets. I heard what Ari was saying. I kind of remember Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate on the Gray Zone saying that the white helmets were actually a CIA front, or they were certainly getting funding from the United States. And, the goal there was, again, to undermine Assad, was to foment unrest against Assad. And I believe Mate and Blumenthal very much. They have demonstrated great credibility over time, especially exposing the shoddiness of the insistent claim by the United States and other Western countries, including Israel, that Assad gassed his own people. That was shown to be a dubious, if not outright false, allegation. The situation with the white helmets, again, we really don't know who to trust. Our media, we cannot rely on. So the white helmets, according to the New York Times, according to the Washington Post, these are the good guys, right? Well, they're wearing white helmets. They must be good guys. And Wikipedia reports that the white helmets, I put this on the screen, the organization had been the target of a sustained disinformation campaign by Bashar al-Assad. So the point, according to Wikipedia, is that the white helmets really were the good guys, and they really were unfairly targeted and besmirched by that dictator Assad. And, he wasn't a good guy either. But where's the truth? And my sense is the truth probably is closer to what Blumenthal and Mate said, which is you had a stable government in Syria. They weren't perfect, but they were hardly the worst. And there were ways to work with Assad to have him take his foot off the throat of his people. And rather than do that, we destabilized Syria at every opportunity. We actually we provided support to al-Qaeda or their descendants in the region, which is awful. I mean, these are terrorists, right? Al-Qaeda is a terrorist group. And we supported them because they, being radical Islam, were not supportive of a much more secular leader, meaning Assad. So, we bear a significant part of the blame here, and the white helmets were probably part of the effort to destabilize, undermine, and ultimately topple the Assad regime, which now, of course, has led to a power vacuum and terrible, terrible problems in Syria. But it's exactly what Israel wanted, and Israel got it. Washington Post, again, the Washington Post, the Gaza ceasefire is cracking and Hamas is to blame. So I assumed when I saw that headline, they were going to start talking about ways that that Hamas had attacked Israel in violation of the ceasefire. But instead, they don't mention Israel barely at all. Instead, what the Post purports to care about are other Palestinians that Hamas has killed since the ceasefire, and how dare they, and why are they going after their own people? And this is violating the terms of the ceasefire. Well, they are not supposed to be brandishing weapons in the streets necessarily, and they aren't supposed to be killing other Palestinians. But this is a pretext, clearly. The idea that Israel could care less if Hamas is ruling with an iron fist Gaza is absurd. They've been the ones killing Gazans. They're the ones responsible for the 70-odd thousand minimum killed, not Hamas. So basically what Amazon is doing, Washington Post is doing, is saying, yeah, Hamas is to blame because they're killing Palestinians, even though Israel could care less. That is not in any way a legit argument for Israel to use to start killing more Palestinians. What's their argument? Well, Hamas killed some Palestinians, so now we get to kill a whole bunch more. That would seem to be the argument. Now, I just highlighted that. They're saying, oh, fresh-faced, well-fed, and clad in clean uniform because they saw like one video. I'm going to play that video. Apparently, the video has been verified. It's legit. Hamas did carry out one execution-style shooting in Gaza City of people they suspected or maybe they knew had been collaborating with Israel and had been stealing food. That's what Hamas said. That was their justification. The Post does note that. It is true. That happened. We'll play the video in a moment. But then the Post goes on. There are credible reports that Hamas is planning an attack on Palestinian civilians. And we're going to have to protect the people of Gaza. Well, the ceasefire actually calls for an independent international peacekeeping force to be deployed within Gaza. And I think that makes some sense. I would like to see that. Apparently, that hasn't happened yet. So Hamas, which Israel had sworn to destroy, that was the whole purpose, right? That was their ostensible reason. Well, Hamas, we can't live with Hamas. They want to destroy us, so we'll destroy all of Palestine first. The article, blames Hamas for killing Palestinians and says that's what's causing the ceasefire to crack. But what's really odd is in their image, which we showed you earlier, the mourners are carrying bodies of Palestinians killed Sunday by Israeli fire. So if the problem is Hamas killing Palestinians, why are those mourners carrying bodies that were killed by Israel? Because Israel's the one that's breaching the ceasefire, that's violating it at every turn, that's responsible, not Hamas. And everybody knows this. Even Trump knows it. I'm going to play the video here. This is the actual execution. We'll show a little bit. This is from France 24. France accuses Hamas of summary executions. And they did. They actually, I'm not going to play the clip. I'll just show you. This is the thumbnail there. They are, you see in that video, you see these masked, they look like the ice thugs, right? Because they've got the scarves or handkerchiefs over their faces. They look like ice thugs, and they're shooting people in the street of Gaza City. They say they, again, were collaborators and they were food stealers. Maybe that's true. It's possible. I don't know. But it's not a violation of any ceasefire agreement. In fact, Trump flat out said they knew this was going to happen. The discussions prior to the ceasefire included what exactly Hamas could do in terms of, I guess, peace, security, policing in Gaza during that period of time when there was not an international force, when the Israeli troops were pulling out. Obviously, there would be a real vacuum, and you would have desperate people, hungry people, some with guns. They're going to be in the streets. And Hamas said, hey, we got to do something about that. And apparently this was recognized as an accurate concern. And Trump said, all right, well, all right, do what you got to do. And he flat out, acknowledged this. So for the Post to cite to this particular incident as some kind of evidence that Hamas is breaching the ceasefire is actually absurd. The fact of the matter is, Trump even said they want to solve problems they've been open about, and we gave them approval. So for the Post, it's so disingenuous, it's so phony for the Bezos paper to come out, the Amazon paper, and say, yeah, the cracking is because of Hamas, executing summary judgment in the streets of Gaza City, after Trump even said, no, they're allowed to do that. And then when you show bodies of Palestinians, and they're not even people killed by Hamas, they're killed by Israel. Of course, Israel's to blame. When you're super rich, when you're uber rich, you have contempt for everyone else. People are just pawns, whether they're the folks who work in the Amazon warehouses who aren't even allowed to talk to each other, who just walk around basically like they're robots, which is exactly what Bezos and Andy Jassy want to replace them with, or whether they're people who are occupying land, who are poor, who are kept down, who are persecuted. Who cares? That's the attitude of the billionaire class. It's to Bezos's advantage to somehow blame their leaders, who are hardly choir boys, for the genocide that they are totally not responsible for. Of course. That's what we're seeing. And it is so disheartening. It's so depressing. It's so sad that people believe it, that they buy it. All right, let's go to, didn't play the France 24, we'll play Deutsche Welt, German World here. Just real quick, they kind of tell you exactly what Israel's doing. By the way, you want to join me, 240-242-5646. Hi, Dolly. She's talking to me. She's getting bored. I'm going to have to get out pretty quick. I can't keep her for too much longer, and I'm sorry about that, folks, but got a few issues here with the pooch. So let's play this video real quick.
President Donald Trump insists the ceasefire he helped broker between Israel and Hamas remains in effect. The two sides blamed each other for breaches on Sunday. Israel struck targets across Gaza after it says Hamas militants killed 2 of its soldiers. Hamas
now, that's false, by the way. That claim we're going to document in a moment. That claim is false. Israel attacked under a false pretext.
Denies it was involved. According to Gazan health officials, dozens of people were killed in the Israeli airstrikes.
Running for cover from an Israeli strike on a house in central Gaza. Further south, the city of Khan
look at the damage done there. It's quite extraordinary. It's just, I think Jared Kushner said it looks like a nuclear bomb hit Gaza. That's what Israel's done. And they're killing more people. And they based it on this alleged attack on Israeli soldiers, which it turns out they weren't responsible. Hamas wasn't responsible for. It's extraordinary. And that people would actually blame Hamas for this is so upsetting, so disheartening. Before we go, I'm going to call it a program in a second, but I want to just show this one last drop site news tweet, which really shows you where we are. So the Rafah explosion, which killed the two Israeli soldiers, was the pretext, was the justification for Netanyahu to launch all those airstrikes that killed dozens, if not hundreds, of Gazans during the ceasefire. But it was actually caused by an Israeli settler bulldozer, settlers, right? People moving in to take the land, running over unexploded ordnance, not a Hamas tunnel attack. Nevertheless, Netanyahu blamed Hamas, suspended aid, and ordered new bombings. But according to Drop Site News, they talked to a lot of people. After Washington, Witkoff told Israel, no, it's BS. You're full of crap, Netanyahu. He said, all right, we'll stop. That's who Israel is. They are only going to kind of sort of behave if you have your foot on their throat. And you can just see before we go, look at this. I mean, the incredible amount of damage Israel did, so tragic, so many lives lost, so horrific. There you go. You can see the bomb smoke rising after those genocidal strikes based on lies, Israel's lies. All right, that's going to do it for today's program. It is the free for all. Thank you so much, Ari, for joining me. I really, 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 really appreciate your call. Thanks to all who are part of Halitics. I'll be back Tuesday. Enjoy the break.